There is a specific behavioral phenomenon that confuses, terrifies, and enrages society more than almost anything else. It is the moment when a kind, patient, and loyal person suddenly turns into ice. You know this moment. You have lived it. For months, or perhaps even years, you were the tolerant one. You were the listener. You were the one who forgave the small disrespects. You were the one who made excuses for their bad behavior. You were the one who swallowed your pride to keep the peace. You gave them second chances, third chances, and 10th chances. You communicated your needs, perhaps quietly, perhaps indirectly, but you tried. You carried the emotional weight of the relationship on your shoulders, believing that if you just loved them enough, if you just understood them enough, they would eventually treat you with the same respect you gave them. And then, one day, something happened. It usually isn't a massive explosion. It isn't a screaming match. It isn't a grand betrayal. It is often something small. A snide comment, a forgotten promise, a tone of voice. But this small event acts as the final grain of sand that collapses the mountain. In that split second, a switch flips in your brain. It is physical. It is audible in your soul. Click. The emotion drains out of your body instantly. The love, the anger, the hope, the frustration, it all evaporates. It is replaced by a cold, absolute, and terrifying indifference. You look at this person you once loved, this friend you once trusted, and you feel nothing. You don't hate them. You don't want to argue with them. You simply recognize that they no longer exist in your future. So, you execute the door slam. You cut them off, completely, irrevocably, without warning. You block the number. You unfollow the socials. You stop showing up. When they reach out to ask, "What's wrong?" you do not reply. When they get angry and demand an explanation, you do not reply. When they cry and promise to change, you do not reply. To them, this looks like an act of sudden cruelty. They tell everyone, "He just snapped. She's crazy. I don't know what happened. We were fine yesterday." But you know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was the result of 1,000 cuts that they ignored. The door slam is not an act of aggression. It is an act of finality. It is the sound of a boundary being set in concrete after years of being drawn in sand. Today, we are going to dissect the psychology of the door slam. We are going to explore why the most empathetic people are capable of the coldest detachments. We are going to look at the neuroscience of emotional burnout, and we are going to validate your decision to walk away without offering closure. Because closure is a luxury for those who listen, and you are done speaking to the death. The architecture of tolerance. To understand the door slam, we must first understand the architecture of the person who slams it. This behavior is most common in high empathy individuals, deep thinkers, and those with a high tolerance for emotional pain. You are likely a person who values harmony. You value loyalty. When you let someone into your inner circle, which is a fortress, you expect them to stay there forever. You invest heavily in people. You give them the benefit of the doubt long after others would have walked away. This is the tolerance phase. During this phase, you are absorbing damage. You are acting as a shock absorber for the relationship. When they are rude, you think, they're just having a bad day. When they are selfish, you think, they've had a hard childhood. When they ignore your boundaries, you think, I just need to explain it better. You are operating on the sunk cost of your own hope. You believe in their potential more than their reality. You see the good in them that they cannot even see in themselves. And because you see that potential, you endure the reality. This endurance is not infinite, but it is vast. It is like a dam holding back a river. The water level rises higher and higher. The pressure builds on the concrete walls. To the observer, the dam looks solid. It looks unmoving. The toxic person looks at you and thinks, I can treat him this way and he stays. I can push her and she stays. Therefore, I can do whatever I want. They mistake your resilience for weakness. They mistake your silence for acceptance. They do not hear the creaking of the concrete. They do not see the hairline fractures forming in the structure. They continue to pour water into the reservoir. They withdraw more emotional currency than they deposit. They take your listening ear, your time, your resources, and your validation, and they give back criticism, drama, and neglect. You engage in covert contracts. You think, if I am good to them, they will eventually be good to me. But toxic people do not sign this contract. They take the good and they demand more. So the pressure builds. You start to feel drained. You start to dread seeing them. You start to feel a physical heaviness when their name pops up on your phone. This is your nervous system screaming at you. This is your intuition sounding the alarm. Warning, structural integrity critical. But you ignore the alarm. You try harder. You explain yourself again. You justify their behavior again. Until the day of the click. The neurobiology of the switch. What exactly happens in that moment of the click? Why does it feel so physical? Neuroscience gives us a fascinating answer. It involves the interplay between the anterior cingulate cortex, ACC, and the amygdala. The ACC is responsible for error detection and conflict monitoring. It weighs the costs and benefits of social interactions. The amygdala processes emotional attachment and fear. During the tolerance phase, your amygdala is active. You are attached to this person. You fear losing them. You fear the conflict of a breakup. Your brain is prioritizing the bond over the pain. However, your ACC is quietly tallying the score. It is logging every insult. It is logging every drained battery. It is logging every moment of disrespect. It creates a prediction error. You predict kindness, you get cruelty. You predict reciprocity, you get selfishness. The brain hates prediction errors. It wants a consistent model of reality. Eventually, the accumulation of negative data points reaches a critical threshold. The brain realizes this investment creates a guaranteed loss. The energy required to maintain this bond exceeds the energy available for survival. At this moment, a survival mechanism kicks in. It is an emotional circuit breaker. Just like a circuit breaker in your house flips off to prevent a fire when the voltage gets too high, your brain flips a switch to prevent a total nervous breakdown. It severs the emotional connection to the source of the stress. This is why the feeling is indifference rather than anger. Anger is a connection. Anger means you still care. Anger means you want them to change. Indifference is the absence of connection. The brain literally stops producing oxytocin and dopamine in response to that person. It stops firing the attachment neurons. They go from being my best friend or my lover to being a stranger in the span of a second. This is a protective mechanism. It is your psyche saving your life. It is the amputation of a gangrenous limb to save the body. When you feel the click, do not fight it. Do not try to force yourself to care again. You can't. The fuse has blown. The wire is cut. The electricity is gone. It is nature's way of saying, enough. The bewilderment of the toxic mind. Now, let us look at this from the perspective of the person you slammed the door on. They are shocked. They are blindsided. Why? Because they never listened to you. Throughout the tolerance phase, you tried to communicate. You said, "Please don't speak to me like that." You withdrew into silence when you were hurt. You pulled away slightly. To you, these were screaming red alerts. To them, these were minor annoyances they could ignore. Because they lack empathy, they cannot model your internal state. They assume that because you are still there, you are still happy. They assume that your presence equals your permission. When you execute the door slam, they experience a sudden collapse of their reality. They lose their supply. They lose their punching bag. They lose their therapist. Their first reaction is usually victimhood. They will call you. "I can't believe you would do this to me. After everything we've been through. You are so cold. You are a narcissist for ghosting me." Notice the irony. They call you the narcissist for finally protecting yourself from their narcissism. This is called DARVO. Deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. They deny their abuse. They attack your character. They reverse the roles so they are the victim and you are the offender. They will try to initiate a smear campaign. They will tell mutual friends that you went crazy. They will paint you as unstable, cruel, and heartless. They do this to protect their ego. They cannot admit, "He left because I treated him like garbage." That would require self-reflection. It is much easier to say, "He left because he is mentally unstable." This is the hardest part of the door slam, accepting that you will be the villain in their story. You have to be okay with being the bad guy in the narrative of a person who has no moral compass. Let them tell the story. Let them smear you. The people who believe them were never your friends anyway. The people who know you, the people who matter, will understand. And even if no one understands, you are free. And freedom is worth the price of a reputation among fools. Biases, the fallacy of closure. One of the main reasons people hesitate to slam the door is the guilt surrounding closure. We are taught that every relationship deserves a proper ending, a final conversation, a summing up of accounts, an explanation. I owe them an explanation. Do you? Let's examine that. An explanation is an exchange of information. It requires a receiver who is tuned in to the frequency of the sender. If you are dealing with a person who has ignored your feelings for years, why do you think they will suddenly understand them in the final conversation? They won't. If you try to give closure to a toxic person, they will use it as an opportunity to argue. You say, "I'm leaving because you disrespect me." They say, "I don't disrespect you. You're too sensitive. Remember that time I bought you dinner?" Now you are in a negotiation about your own reality. You are trapped in the jade loop. Justify, argue, defend, explain. They will twist your words. They will gaslight you. They will make you doubt your own decision. The desire for closure is often a trap. It is the ego wanting to be understood one last time. But you must accept a brutal truth. You will never be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The door slam is the closure. The silence is the explanation. The absence is the message. By removing your access, you are saying everything that needs to be said. You are saying, "Your behavior has disqualified you from my life." That is a complete sentence. You do not owe a comprehensive exit interview to someone who failed the job. You simply fire them. Tactical execution. How to slam. So, you have felt the click. You know it is time. How do you execute the door slam cleanly, effectively, and safely? This is a military operation. It requires precision. Emotions are done. This is strategy. Protocol 1. The silent preparation. Before you slam the door, secure the perimeter. If you live with them, move your important documents and valuables out slowly. If you work with them, document everything. If you have shared finances, separate them. Do this quietly. Do not threaten to leave. Threats give them time to sabotage you. The element of surprise is your protection. Be normal on the surface while you are disentangling your roots underneath. Protocol 2. The digital severance. When you are ready, cut the digital cords. Block their number, not just delete. Block. You do not want to see their desperate texts at 3 a.m. Block them on all social media. Do not just unfollow. Block. You do not want them spying on your new life. If necessary, change your number. This creates a digital void. It signals absolute finality. Protocol 3. The no contact rule. This is the golden rule. No contact means no contact. It does not mean, I'll wish them happy birthday. It does not mean, I'll just answer one question to be polite. It does not mean, I'll ask their friend how they are doing. It means they are dead to you. If you break no contact, you reset the clock. You show them that the door is not locked, just closed. And if it's just closed, they will kick it down. You must be a fortress. The drawbridge is up. The moat is filled. No one enters. Protocol 4. The flying monkey defense. Toxic people use flying monkeys, mutual friends or family members sent to do their bidding. Hey, Nem is really upset. Can you just talk to them? Why are you being so harsh? You must door slam the flying monkeys too, or at least set a hard boundary. I am not discussing this. If you bring them up again, I will have to end this conversation. If they persist, they are agents of the enemy. Cut them too. Your peace is more important than your social circle. Protocol 5. The grief wave. After the slam, you will feel relief. It will be euphoric. But a few days or weeks later, you might feel a wave of grief. You will miss the good times. You will wonder if you were too harsh. You will feel the phantom limb syndrome of the relationship. This is normal. It is your brain detoxing from the oxytocin addiction. Do not mistake withdrawal for love. Do not go back to the drug just because you have the shakes. Ride the wave. It will pass. And on the other side, there is a level of peace you cannot imagine. The guilt of the executioner. The biggest obstacle you will face is your own guilt. You are a kind person. That's how you got into this mess. Slamming the door feels like meanness. It feels aggressive. You will think, maybe I should have explained it better. Maybe I should have given them one last chance. I hurt their feelings. Stop. Reframe the narrative. You were not the executioner. You were the victim who finally escaped. The door slam was not an act of violence against them. It was an act of love for yourself. You have a duty to protect your own soul. You have a duty to protect your mental health. If someone was poisoning your food every day, would you feel guilty for stopping eating it? Would you feel guilty for locking your door against a thief? Toxic people rob you of your time, your joy, and your potential. Locking them out is basic hygiene. You must kill the nice person inside you who wants to be liked by everyone. The nice person is a martyr. The nice person gets used. Replace the nice person with the good person. A good person is kind, but has boundaries of steel. A good person helps others, but not at the expense of their own survival. A good person knows that enabling a tyrant is not kindness, it is cowardice. The void that follows. When you slam the door, you create a vacuum. The drama is gone. The noise is gone. The constant anxiety of what mood are they in is gone. At first, the silence is deafening. You might feel bored. You might feel empty. This is the void. And this void is a gift from the gods. In this void, you can finally hear your own thoughts. In this void, your nervous system begins to heal. The cortisol levels drop. The adrenal fatigue recovers. You will find that you have physical energy you haven't felt in years. You will sleep better. Your skin will clear up. Your focus will return. You begin to reclaim the pieces of yourself that you gave away to keep the peace. You start to remember who you were before you became their caretaker. You start to have hobbies again. You start to laugh again, real laughter, not the nervous laughter of appeasement. You will realize that the door slam was the pivot point of your life. It was the moment you declared sovereignty. It was the moment you stopped justifying your existence and started owning it. And as you heal, you will attract a new caliber of people. People who respect boundaries. People who do not need to be managed. People who bring water to the dam instead of just taking it. You will realize that you were never hard to love. You were just spending your love on people who couldn't afford it. Bordered. Final warning. A word of warning to the wise. Once you master the door slam, you become dangerous. You become intolerant of bullshit. You will find yourself cutting people off faster and faster. This is good, but be careful not to become isolated completely. Use your discernment. The goal is not to have an empty life. The goal is to have a curated life. Keep the gate shut, but keep the window open for the right ones. But for the toxic, for the users, for the energy vampires, slam it, lock it, weld it shut, and never, ever look back at the burning bridge. The light of the fire is lighting your way forward. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your own history. Think of the person you slammed the door on. Think of the guilt you carried. I want you to lay that guilt down right now. It is not yours to carry. You did what you had to do. You survived. And I want to ask you a question in the comments, a question that will validate the others watching this video. What was the click moment for you? What was the specific, small thing they did that finally made you realize, I'm done? Share your story. Let's build a monument to the boundaries we finally set. Welcome to the void. Welcome to strategic solitude.